Here to Mayor Pro Tem and the commissioners. What an honor it is to be here to make Fire Administration's presentation for the master plan. And as you probably have already guessed, we will be asking for your support to be able to move this plan further to improve our fire protection. There is a slide series that maybe we could bring up. Perfect. With that, we always start with our mission statement. And of course, that is to prevent harm in this community, to be able to survive and thrive, both firefighters that work in the system as well as our public. And then finally, to be nice and to be kind. As a presentation overview, there's going to be 6 sections that we'll go through fairly quickly this evening. The first is the preface and introduction. Then it will be an executive summary. We'd like to share with you the status and conditions of our fire stations and talk about the need for appropriate operational staffing. Emergency medical services will be next. And of course, our apparatus replacement plan will be the close for this evening. And of course, we're open for questions whenever the commissioner may want to ask. Without a doubt, no one in this room has been associated with kicking the can down the road. I know we mentioned it the last time we were together, but some of the fire issues truly need to be addressed. And again, taking this time today demonstrates the commitment that this commission does have to be able to help us to get to where we should be. So we'd like to thank you. Also, it's been great working with our partners at Local 64. Over the past 20 months, I counted a little bit more than 30 times both groups got together, typically at Fire Administration, and worked on as best we could and as close as we could together to build this plan for you. This plan is required to be a 10-year version of what we'd like to get accomplished, and that's what we'll be speaking to. And again, it has several options that the commission can choose for us to be able to move forward. Directly out of page 54 of the current memorandum of agreement between the local as well as the city, it describes the fact that this planning process should get started and underway. There's a couple of slides. We're just going to flash through them. If you have a copy of the contract available, again, it's on that page that I mentioned. The staffing requirements are a really important part of a fire department. The staffing that we currently have is 73 minimum members on duty per shift to handle the fire apparatus operations. Soon in the next contract, when ratified, that'll move up to 79. We have 3 safety officers that are critical. Please keep in mind that firefighting is one of the most dangerous labor occupations in this nation. It has been and will continue to be, and we have just a little bit more about that later. The staffing level for pumpers and ladder trucks are included in the plan. 3 on a pumper, 4 on a ladder truck, and 4 on a heavy rescue. And we'll compare that to what the nation feels through the National Fire Protection Association as minimums. We'll be moving the minimum number of companies up from 22 to 23 in the next labor contract. That will reflect the fact that Fairfax is back operational. When we speak to specifics, we'll be using the National Fire Protection Standards, which I think both the local as well as Fire Administration strongly agrees to. And again, it's been validated, and I'm going to explain that validation just a little bit later. An executive summary is included on page 5 and 6 of the reports that I hope that you have at your desk. So I won't spend a lot of time, but like most executive summaries, it's a high-level review. It doesn't have all the facts and details that you will need to seek to be able to become acquainted with whatever the issue is, besides just that executive summary. So now let's talk about our fire stations. Our fire stations protect 128 square miles. And as you well know, we serve about 154,000 people each and every day. We have a large influx of visitors as well as folks that come here to work. On the Wyandotte County roadways, we have an estimate of 200,000 people travel to work through our communities using the interstates in the morning, and that same 200,000 travel back to go home. So with that, we protect essentially a population of about 500,000 with the resources that we have. Everyone's aware that we're the second largest railroad hub, at least that's what I've been told. And beneath the ground are many, many miles of petroleum and natural gas pipelines that we also have to protect. Our fire department has been designated as an all hazards department, able to handle essentially every type of incident except those that involve gunplay. And if someone gets shot, well, of course, you know, the answer is we will be right there to support the police department as best we can. You may recall that we have had a chance to merge Fire Station 16 and 17. That was what I call BR, that's before Rube. Not even one smile. All right, going to be a tough audience tonight. I got that. With that said, that saved probably about $12 million. The $12 million was, in fact, instead of building 2 fire stations, we built 1. However, although we were able to fortify and save some cash, in some areas that causes a response problem simply because one of the fire stations is not there any longer. We'll talk a little bit about that later as well. The consolidation greatly assisted the Turner community with their facilities and fire apparatus. The new station houses Medic 17, which is an advanced life support ambulance, which is the best this country has to offer. Truck 17, that's a 107-foot ladder truck to be able to make an elevated rescue and many other responsibilities. Pumper 16, Ready Reserve Engine 16, Brush Truck 16, Battalion 2, and the safety officer all reside in the brand new building at 1900 South 55th Street in Turner. The conditions are of pretty high concern. What we would like to do is to not only speak to the conditions of the station, but also mention that we would like to closely follow 1710 for response times and distances, the Insurance Services Office, which provides all fire insurance amounts in the country. They set the premium rate, and the National Institute of Standards and Technology. We'll refer to this several times, and you have to recognize that that's a federal agency that is a scientific arm of the government that works on facts, as you will see here in just a little bit. The goal is that 4 members should arrive at any fire incident within 4 minutes or less. And then there's building requirements to get to the appropriate number according to the type of building within an 8-minute window. So with that, that's going to also be a focus of our presentation tonight. We would like to ensure that we have safe, clean, and comfortable workplaces for all of our personnel that comes to work and works hard for you each and every day. To help make sure that we're not part of the delay of getting help, we ask our firefighters, and they exceed this standard virtually every time, is to be responding out the door of a fire in 80 seconds. Nighttime, 120 seconds. That's for the person to receive and understand the alarm, get to the apparatus floor, get out of their civilian clothes, get into their firefighting gear, get in the fire apparatus and be seated and belted. There's probably no other part of government, not just here, but anywhere, that can maintain and has that type of response time. And our members over here, you see, they do that repeatedly and regularly. And with that, that helps us to reach that standard. The detailed response goals for subsequent arriving units can be found in that same standard 1710, which we can make available at any time you like. To go through the roll call of fire stations, you're taking a peek at Strawberry Hill, as you probably well know. The condition is really not very good. It's a 95-year-old station, and the best I can find, it was remodeled once, and it was a minor remodel. It is the home to 39 total firefighters. So 13 firefighters are assigned there on shift, and it becomes not just a place where they go to work, it becomes also a garage to maintain the fire truck, a training center to learn, a kitchen to be able to be on duty 24 hours where they have to eat. It also has to serve as a hotel. So if you looked up multi-purpose building, which is one of the classification codes. The picture, if you will, would be a fire station because without a doubt, it is perhaps the most multi-use building. Station 2 is in Midtown. The condition is poor. It was built in 1979, so it's 46 years old, and 27 firefighters live there. Both Station 1 and Station 2 were built as a career fire station, and I'll try to remember to mark which ones were career from the beginning and which ones were a volunteer station that came to us by annex. Station 3 is Armadale, deplorable condition, built in 1951. It's 74 years old, and it's home to 25 firefighters. And this building was built again, has a career station. Station 4 in Bethel, the condition's deplorable, 1957, 68 years old. 15 firefighters worked there. And of course, this is one of the stations that was acquired as we annexed that was once a volunteer station. It did not include kitchen space, living space, training areas, bunk rooms. So it's well overdue for replacement. Station 5 Quindaro, once again, deplorable. 55 was when it was built, so it's 70 years old, and it houses 24 firefighters. This, of course, was built with a career station in mind. Station 6, which is at the Legends and or the West Village, it's in poor condition. It was built in 2001, so it's 24 years old. It also houses our training facility along with 21 firefighters. Station 7 is Argentine. Argentine is in deplorable condition, built in 1951. We've gotten 74 years of service from that station, home to 39 firefighters, and as you could tell, it was built for us. West Piper, however, is a different story. It started its life essentially as the city hall, as I understand it, for that community before annexation. Then it merged into a volunteer fire station, and it's really just a metal garage. Today, it's in deplorable condition. It's 46 years old, and it's home to 15 of our firefighters. Station 9, Central Avenue, Bethany Park, was built as a fire station for career people. The condition's deplorable. It's 58 years old, and it's home to 24 firefighters. Rosedale, also built for us in mind. It is Station 10, poor condition, 30 years old, and it's home to 30 of our members. Station 11, you may recall, most of our commission attended the 100th anniversary. It was built as a KCK fire station in its day because fire trucks were much smaller then. This was a 2-bay station, and we've converted it to be able to make it work into a 1-bay station, and it's home to 15 firefighters. I could not find where that station has ever been remodeled, but again, records do get lost, and I understand that. Station 12, Piper East. The condition is nearly new. This is what we like to see, this or something similar throughout the system, and we understand it's going to take a while to get there. It's 6 years old, and it is home to 24 firefighters. Station 14, Clam Park, built as a fire station, deplorable condition, although we do have a relatively new kitchen there. It's 69 years old, and it's home to 30 of our members. Station 15, Fairfax. I think everyone's familiar with this station and location. The condition is poor. It was built in 1987. It's 38 years old. It's home to 19 firefighters, 4 fire investigators, 1 community paramedic, 2 EMS support staff, and it has the EMS storage area. Turner, Station 16, I think just about every commissioner was there to enjoy the dedication. Again, this along with Station 12 are the prides of our fleet. This is home to 45 firefighters. Station 18, Wellborn, is in poor condition, 47 years old, and 24 members work there. And of course, that's twin to the Midtown Station 2, which both were built for us. Station 19 shares its facility with West Patrol. It was built in 1972. It's 53 years old and home to 24 members. Station 20, which recently had a scare that it was not quite structurally sound. We learned that it was, but it's a volunteer station. We've added on to this to where it can't be added on pretty much anymore. It's 58 years old and it houses 15 of our members. In the 10 years that this plan addresses, what we would ask you to consider is replacement for Fire Station 20, which is the Muncie area. Again, the station is in horrible condition and needs to be completely rebuilt. Along with that, during that same first phase, we would ask consideration to take the Midtown Fire Station and renovate it. It's of good bones. It's in a relatively good location on State Avenue. And with that said, we would be able to save money and have a modern fire station that would be functional. The second phase takes a look at Fire Station 4, Bethel. That's again one of the ones that was once a volunteer and it's 68 years old. So with that, we would hope to build a new fire station, make it on the most appropriate site that we can agree to, both labor and management, that provides the response that is best for the community. And in that same second phase, we would hope that Station 6, West Village, gets renovated. Station 6 is 24 years old, but it's one of the heaviest used fire stations in the system in that everyone uses it and sometimes outside agencies for training purposes. It is our only training building with a small classroom that's also at headquarters in Strawberry Hill, but for the most part, it has to carry the load. Phase 3 of critical needs for us would be Station 8, that's West Piper. Again, it was a volunteer fire station, a city hall. It's 46 years old and never designed to do what it is doing today. And finally, in phase 3, we'd ask for Bethany Park, Fire Station 9 off of Central Avenue to get a facelift. It's 58 years old. It's of great structural stability. However, the interior is simply falling apart. And we would ask again to have that part of phase 3. So that's the highest part of our asks in 3 phases, 3 new stations, and then 3 models. Section 4 talks about operational staffing rather. The challenge, of course, is we are the most dangerous labor occupation in America, or just about. There's times when the police ellipse us and times when mining ellipse us both, but over 100 firefighters typically die in a year. The exact number in 22 was 96, 23 was 87. That information comes to us by way of the National Fire Protection Association. They keep pretty close records. 80,000 members are injured in the line of duty each year. With that said, it's probably much more than that because we know sometimes the records aren't kept very well and there's not much of a benefit, whereas a line of duty death brings quite a lot of wealth to a family that lost a member. Injuries are not the same. We are a very demanding organization. We have high levels of personal integrity, honor, training, education, experience. Excuse me, in essence, we have to uphold the public trust. I think by improving the facilities that our young men and women work in, I think is going to be paramount for us to be able to continue that tradition, to be able to continue the work that is so necessary for this community. I know they'll do it with whatever they're given, but it's probably time to consider. We also respond to about 35,000 emergency incidents each year. I know it's just a little under 100 a day, but a typical day for us has the doors going up and down on all these fire stations so many times. It's amazing they've held together. The staffing that we would like to acquire, and again, I don't want to speak out of turn. They'll certainly have this podium at a later time, but I believe our labor force feels the same way. NFPA 1710, national standard. It's a consensus standard. And if you'll allow, what that means is a group of firefighters, a group of administrators, a group of elected officials, and people from general industry all get involved in developing our consensus standards. I'll tell you in just a second why they're so important. With that said, it's 4 members per each pumper, 4 members per ladder truck, 4 members per rescue. Hazardous materials unit should be staffed by 6, which we have 1 large and 1 small of those. And a quint, which we have 3 of, should be staffed by 8 persons, which is not realistic, and we understand. We would like to get out of the quint business as time and vehicle procurements allow. So again, that's going to be a significant change in direction for us. With that said, we have a video clip from NIST that goes over how quick flashover occurs. It's just a few minutes. It's a couple seconds under 3 minutes. Hopefully it won't be too loud, but this begins showing you why it's so important to have an effective, efficient, and functioning fire department.
We have 12:55.
The life of a deadly fire has begun. This scenario occurs in millions of homes every year around the world.
Okay, we have flames just coming up the back of the sofa. Might be from a cigarette that was left there for a few hours, or a little kid playing with a lighter and giving it a little ignition.
At this stage, the small flame is relatively harmless. To grow, the main source of fuel is the sofa. As it burns, the heat it produces decomposes chemicals in its wood and synthetic material. Rising is a complex concoction of flammable gases. They combine with oxygen in the room to produce a dazzling chemical reaction: flames. As the flames radiate heat downward onto the sofa, more and more fuel is consumed. As this deadly cycle repeats itself, the fire grows with frightening speed.
Okay, we had 2 smoke detectors in the hallway that were getting activated. Now the fires began to spread up the wall. You can start seeing heavier smoke building up against the ceiling. That's hot gas. It's trapped there by the ceiling.
Experiments like this have led scientists to a simple but alarming discovery. Fires are changing. 107 seconds into the burn, this fire is much hotter than it would have been 20 years ago. The reason? Modern furnishings ignite more easily and burn faster than traditional products like wool and timber.
We can see the radiation from the fire just on the sofa starting to affect other objects in the room.
It begins to appear like a blowtorch.
They're pyrolyzing. They're giving off additional fuel. That's additional fuel that's going up into that hot layer that's going to burn.
In the 1950s, the average apartment fire took more than 15 minutes to peak at around 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, they can hit a staggering 2,000 degrees. In a little over 150 seconds, this test fire grew from a harmless flame to a raging inferno. The heat and energy it released destroyed the apartment in less than 3 minutes.
With that said, where NFPA is a consensus standard, it's groups of people like us that make the best determination they can. NIST comes along. It's a federal agency packed with scientists. There are 3 that are fire protection engineers and also have the designation of scientists, and they validate what NFPA does. So as we move forward and hopefully can be able to look towards, and we understand it's going to be over time, there's science that back up the fact that 4 persons should operate in a fire crew. 4-person crew can complete tasks 7 minutes faster than a 2-person crew. Now, with that said, what's the impact? A few nights ago on Sandusky, we responded to a very large house fire. It was with our partners in Bonner Springs. There were 2 people in the basement of that home that were not aware that the entire roof and pretty much the top floor of that building was on fire. We had to make a tremendous, legitimate, honest, life-saving rescue of 2 young females. And again, if we would have wasted time, if we didn't have the right people at the right place at the right time, quite frankly, I don't know what the outcome would have been. So that's a real life explanation of how that might work. Staffing not only saves lives, but it allows us to improve the overall customer service experience. In other words, 1 person doesn't have to do 3 or 4 or 5 jobs when we have the right staffing. and do have the time, at least perhaps the command team, to explain to the community what's happening, why we're perhaps cutting a hole in the roof or maybe opening a window. Here's the next, again, very short clip, but it begins to indicate what we can do with different crew sizes. And 4 seems to be the most efficient and effective. Let's roll tape.
No matter where the fire station is located, when the alarm sounds, firefighters rush to answer the call. They know that every second counts for keeping a fire from spreading, minimizing property loss, and most of all, saving lives. But while the dedication of firefighters across the country may be the same, the size of the crews they dispatch to a fire may vary significantly from station to station. Some with just 2 firefighters per engine, others with as many as 5. So, how effective are different size crews at combating residential fires? To address that critical question and others, a landmark study was conducted by a consortium of fire researchers led by the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
This is the first time in a national study that we've been able to isolate the effects of crew size, in this case, 2 persons, 3 persons, 4 persons, and 5 persons on an engine. Also look at the effects of engine arrival time, the spacing between the subsequent engines, and the different fire growth rates.
Using a 2-story test house built near the NIST campus in Maryland, the researchers studied different size crews of firefighters in action against residential fires. Crews of 2, 3, 4, and 5 firefighters were timed performing each of 22 standard tasks for responding to a fire. The results? 4 and 5 person crews completed all of the firefighting and rescue tasks, on average 25 to 30% faster than 2 and 3 person crews, respectively. This finding could help communities better determine the number of fire stations and firefighters they should have at the ready.
Currently, the way deployment decisions are made is that the fire chiefs and the personnel, the city county managers or the mayor, the people who have the resources at the local level, get together and look at matching the resources that they have to the risks that they have. There is no technical basis for understanding if you make a change to your deployment, you add or subtract people, you open or close additional stations. There's no validated data to support understanding what the effects of those decisions.
Thanks to the efforts of the NIST-led Firefighter Consortium, the data are now in hand and ready to make a difference.
So again, as you can see, it's driven by science, and that 4 persons per company truly seems to be the sweet spot. You're taking a look at our response report card. This is the actual factual data of our performance. It's not conjecture. It's not a dream. This is what we did. When you look at the 1st Battalion, which is in, near, and around where we're at, Strawberry Hill down to Central Avenue, to the first part of State Avenue at Station 11 and in between. We meet the National Fire Protection Association standards. What they ask is that you respond and arrive within 240 seconds, and that you do it with 4 people or more 90% of the time. So when you look at this battalion, oh, it's great. Almost all of the numbers that you see up there are in the 90s, with the exception of 1, which happens to be 15 Fairfax, and it's off by just a few points. Not bad at all. When we go to 2023, you'll see the same results. Again, in fact, a couple got better within a few, a couple got worse within a few, but bottom line, it's pretty good cooking. Now, when we take a look at the 2nd Battalion, the 2nd Battalion report card isn't really good. If it appears in red on the extreme right column, that means we didn't get there. And in some cases, we missed it by 10, 12, 15%. The battalion that we're speaking to is essentially the Northern Battalion in, near, and around Station 16 that you visited. When we take a look at the actual data from 23, the results are the same. When we head out west, the report card even gets worse. The red lights up in every category. And I think there's one fire station that can't meet that standard 50% of the time. Pumper 8, they're at 51%. So way off. And again, when you take a look in your packets, you'll see the second part of Battalion 3, the actual practical reality, factual results indicate that we have problems in both segments of our community. Now, on to the emergency medical services discussion. Historically, we have been the first, one of the first in the state. I'm told perhaps even one of the first in the nation to have advanced life support. That's our paramedics. Also, anyone else in our organization, up to and including me, is mandated to maintain at least emergency medical technician, which is now a 5-week course with very rigorous testing. So we are giving the very best to the community when they call on us about 70% of the time for medical calls. We started and rather exited the transport service in 95. We got back in 2004. And it's my hope and wish, I think, again, along with the labor group, that we always stay in that. By the numbers, it looks like it's 71% of our call volume. We transported 18,400 people to definitive care. The definitive care facility is either a hospital or perhaps they needed to go to an urgent care, but it is the final place where they'll need support to be able to get back into society. Emergency medical services are critical for the health, welfare, wellness, safety, and security of this in any community. When we take a look at the numbers, when we got started in 2022, 4.3 million was in revenue. Then comes along 2023, 5.9. 2024, 6.2 million was brought in. We expect that we'll have a higher result. I see Reggie Leonard is here somewhere, so he's going to be pretty happy with that, I think, I hope. Lindsay, rather. So we will continue to see a return. Now, we do have a large population that's uninsured. We cannot recover that money. And along with that, we do what's called soft billing, which we would love to go in a different direction. In other words, there's no collection service after a bill rings in 3 times with a person that essentially gets written off if they don't pay their bill. The challenges are in the ambulance availability. So for us, the cycle time from the time we get a response to the time we're on the scene, to the time we get to the hospital, and the time the firefighters return back to the station and prepare the ambulance for the next alarm takes between 50 to 90 minutes. I was told somewhere about 70 is the average, but that's the range. Ambulance availability is critical in our community. And what I mean by that, including today, there's hardly a day where we don't go down to 2 ambulances available, 1 ambulance available, or sometimes it's just a horrible situation where there's no ambulance available. What that means is a fire truck, which will go right away anyhow, will start patient care, but they're going to have to wait an extended period of time for an ambulance to come perhaps from Edwardsville, Bonner Springs, or Kansas City, Missouri. When we first entered into the agreement with them, we didn't realize what a partner they would be. Edwardsville recorded over 100 calls into our community from their community, and almost all of them were emergency medical services calls. So with that, we currently operating out of 9 ambulances and 2 cross-staff ambulances have a deficit there that needs to be addressed. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this issue. One of the most critical pieces of equipment that should have been bought with all of our ambulances is called a Stryker power load system. What this stretcher does and this system does is it locks the patient in. So first and foremost, we don't drop a patient, which unfortunately has happened here and in just about every fire department in the country until this came along. The next thing the Stryker power stretcher does is it physically lifts the cot up. In my day, when we would have to lift a 300 or 400 pound person, we keep adding firefighters until there was enough. Today, a firefighter should not have to lift the stretcher at all. One severe back injury, one drop patient would probably buy somewhere on the order of 50 to 100 of these systems. The community paramedic program needs to get a little bit of acknowledgement as well. This is a system that we operate with one individual in one vehicle that was partially paid for by one of the healthcare systems, and they no longer provide any support. And that's to keep people in their home and keep them well. As our population gets older, the need to keep the folks in their home comfortably, safe, and happy gets to be more important. Plus, it reduces hospital visits. We describe the fact that we're busy, but there's hardly a time a single ambulance in our community goes to KU Medical Center and they're told that it's exceptionally busy. Simply put, that means they're going to have to wait. They're going to have to wait for a bay to come open in the emergency room while the hospital sorts out the tremendous load they have. So having this program works in so many wonderful ways, and I hope that eventually we can expand it. Fire stations, fire apparatus, staffing are all ahead of that, but it's a very, very good investment to have a community paramedic program that's robust and well integrated. The apparatus plan, again, I think you're going to find some needs there as well. The primary goal is for emergency fleet to be effective, efficient, reliable, and safe. Of course, the master plan is a living document, and what we mean by that is each year that we finish the plan, we hope that an additional 10th year will be added as that current year drops off. Our fire department operates for you 11 advanced life support ambulances. 9 are staffed full-time. 2 are staffed with a cross-staffed pumper, the pumper at Station 20, Muncie, the pumper at Station 4, Bethel. What that means is the firefighters have to get off the pumper, get on the ambulance and go to a call. The pumper's out of service or vice versa. So it's not the best of all conditions. Given the fact that we handle so many calls per year, we hope eventually we can work out of that. There are 15 frontline pumpers that range in age from 2006 to 2024. They carry water, have a 1,500 gallon per minute water pump, and they serve as the backbone of all of our firefighting efforts. We have 7 in-service ladder trucks. The ladder trucks reach from 75. I think we have one left. That's the last one of those we'll buy, and the rest reach to 107. They can extinguish roof fires. They're used for rescues, missions of all types, high-rise operations, and they vary from year to year as to the other support that they can provide. For instance, blocking out on the interstate to ensure that our people don't get harmed, or that the people at the accident are having additional incoming vehicles and crashes. We have 2 rescue companies, and I can tell you that they're sort of the jack of all trades. When there's a need to have somebody with some special expertise between them and the hazardous materials members are the 2 that we call on. Both, I can tell you, the rescue units as well as the hazardous materials units are to be proud of. They're relatively new, they're functional, and we do have reserve apparatus. Brush trucks, however, are not quite in that same category. We operate with 5 brush trucks and all have exceeded their service life. The service life for front-end fire apparatus, such as ladder trucks and pumpers, is 10 to 15 years, and that's based on their usage. So somewhere between 11 to 20 years, they should be put into reserve and used for very limited amount of times because they're simply not capable of being frontline. Vehicle condition is considered, mileage, engine hours, age, wear and tear, and maintenance costs to determine what can be sent to surplus, gotten rid of, and what can be repaired and used again if there's any life left. And we do that pretty efficiently. What we'd ask in terms of what we need is every even year, we'd like to be able to purchase 2 pumpers. We've seen the cost of fire apparatus go up significantly. We're equally not happy with that as you are, but we have found a vendor who provides the same apparatus for about $100,000 cheaper. So we'll be using that company at least in the near future. Every odd year will be 1 pumper. Every year, we're going to ask for a piece of special fire apparatus, a ladder truck, a rescue unit, hazardous materials unit as time goes on, and then one brush truck per year. The need will be for 4 staff vehicles to be purchased by the department. And I want to remind the commission that we were fortunate enough, and with your help and guidance, we took 14 vehicles away that were not necessary or used, and also merged the safety officer with the battalion chief. Ambulance needs 3 per year. 2 should be new. 1 ambulance can be a remount. The remount means that we're going to use the same box, the same patient compartment, and put it on a new chassis, which costs us about half as much. But without having those resources that I mentioned, you're going to get a full view of it here in a second. This is what's going to happen. So as you look at the chart, if it's in red, and I know this is an eye test, when you look at the chart, if it's in red, those fire trucks don't belong here or anywhere. They're essentially ready for the scrap pile. In this case, it's ambulances. And again, it's so small, I can't see it. But you're going to find some of the ambulances that we currently operate with that exceed 200,000 miles. Again, we're working our hardest to get them out of the system. If it appears in yellow, you've probably figured that out by now. They still have service life, but they're getting close to end. And what we want is more of that apparatus, if you will, in the green. We have 9 frontline ambulances and we have 6 reserve ambulances. When we take a look at the pumpers, because of a lot of work done by this commission, by county administration, by finance department, we've gotten the red ones down to 2, I think. And again, when you look at the mileage, but the yellow ones have to be of pretty great concern. We use fire trucks every day. There's hardly a call that a pumper or a ladder truck doesn't go on, whether it's a medical or a fire. The specialty apparatus, which again, the print here is microscopic on mine, which I think this one's ladder trucks. We have 1 in the red. Most are in the green. So once again, we're doing better. Hazardous materials, although you see the red, those are the reserves. The 2 in green are our front line, and we're very happy with those, along with the rescue units. Same process. 1 reserve is in red, 1 reserve is in green, and then the other 2 are relatively brand new. The brush trucks, I think we ran out of red ink. I don't know when this was printed, but all of them should be in red. Whether it's the inability to be able to operate off-road, whether it's the problems associated with age, whether it's the cost of maintenance. I saw a video clip of one of the vehicles, that diesel was obviously not functioning correctly and putting out more smoke than what the fire would. The boats are in good condition. We typically operate with 5. Reds are reserved, the yellow is reserved. But once again, when we talk about the specialty apparatus, those are some of the ones that we need to consider as well when it comes to being able to get those procured and financed. To summarize fire administration's plan, first of all, we would hope that with labor, we could meet regularly, quarterly, every 6 months, whatever the window might be, and go over where we're at with the plan. We would try to look for successes, of course, and celebrate those, barriers and opportunities as to how we can improve. At the end of the year, and hopefully every January, the chief and along with the local, we'd be able to add the next year, so it always becomes a 10-year plan, and we hope this gets maintained forever into infinity. The master plan approval process belongs to the county city administrator, the master plan funding by the chief financial officer and the budget director, and of course, to implement the master plan will be as directed when we're told that we can move, when there's enough money, and when there's enough support. An annual review of the plan is in order. What we see as a summary is it is a 10-year plan. We're asking for 1 build new, 1 renovation over phase 1, 2, and 3 within that 10-year window. Whenever we have the financing to do it, we should maintain our apparatus, ambulance, and specialty vehicles as described. We would continue to work towards staffing to 1710 when it's available. We'd like to thank the commission. Without a doubt, the direction we've gotten, the support that we've had has been tremendous. No shortage of feedback from the last presentation, and I'm guessing from this one as well. Mayor and his office have also been supportive, along with the county administrator, Mr. Johnston and his staff, thanks to the leadership of Local 64 and to the fire administration staff. I stand before you and ask, are there any questions that I can answer at this point?
Thank you for the presentation, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Are there any comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. Concerning staffing, Dennis, how many chiefs do you have?
Boy, what a great question. I think there's about 24 or 25. We have removed one chief into a civilian position, which is now the head of EMS is no longer a chief officer. And again, I think with clear direction from this commission, we have laid the groundwork to change fire investigations from battalion chiefs level to what would either be a firefighter, a driver, or a captain.
Okay. Do they have take-home cars?
The take-home cars are the executive staff, none that I described. In fact, the EMS supervisor, his vehicle was taken away and that it was simply a ride to work. Other folks, go ahead, sir.
What's the number of the take-home cars?
I apologize. I don't have that information, but it does come in a report that we've sent to the commission as well as the county administrator, and we can get that to you by tomorrow. We can probably get it to you tonight if you're that interested.
Okay,
Tomorrow's okay?
sure. Do you have a driver?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a personal driver?
I do not. I have an aide that's responsible to take care of all of the details, including your biweekly report and many other administrative duties. Anybody who told you that there's an aide was completely inaccurate and wrong.
Nobody told me that.
Oh,
I'm just
sorry, sir.
asking you. Okay. Who in the report thought it was necessary to describe the buildings as deplorable or poor?
I would take that responsibility, sir. That's me.
You did that?
Yeah, 100%, 100% me, sir.
Okay. And I don't see a dollar figure in here. From everything you said, I don't know if $500 million would take care of what you want. don't know.
Again, sir, I think the finance is left up to the chief financial officer, to the budget manager, and to the facilities manager.
Well, why didn't you put an amount in the report?
I apologize, sir. Say again.
Why didn't you put an amount in the report that you thought,
I didn't feel it was necessary. Again, I'll take responsibility if that's a problem.
okay, then how are we supposed to serve the taxpayers and do your budget at the same time without an amount?
I think when the decision is made to move on any of these projects, I would recommend that the chief financial officer, that the budget director, and the other folks that support them, again, the buildings and ground person that does the construction would provide that information.
So you wouldn't have any input, huh?
I would have as much input as I could have.
Okay. Concerning the EMS capital equipment needs, if you go to page 21 on the back section of your report,
Yes, sir.
okay, it says primary EMS capital equipment needs. I think you described it, number one, complete striker power load systems for all medic units. You did that, didn't you?
I think so. Yes, sir.
Okay. What about the second one?
I didn't go over every detail in a 35-page report. I tried to hit the highlights. So I think every council commission member, I hope, received a copy. There's no secrets and not trying to hide anything
Well, I'm
from you, sir.
asking you a question.
I
what is-
didn't feel like it was necessary, sir.
Oh, really? Huh. What does
Should I put the
a
amount
sole
of fire hose
auto
that we need?
pulse equipment mean? I don't know.
Okay, again, we can get you details on what the auto pulse is and how much it costs.
You don't know what it is?
I do know what it is, very much so.
What
I've
is,
been a firefighter for 53 years. I take that almost as an insult, sir.
really?
I do.
You should know insult. Okay, the final one, update armor and ballistic helmets.
Yes, sir.
That should have been number one with the firefighters. in my estimation. You know, I don't know how many fancy equipment you are buying that in this time that we're in, trying to structure a budget that we can work with. I just don't understand why that wouldn't be number one, and your other, that should be a need and not a want, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Kane.
Mayor Pro Tem, you know, you got your new fire station and it's got every bell and whistle possible. And we need to get back to what we need, not what we want.
Yes, sir.
Well, a lot, and it's great to have all that fancy stuff, but when you buy that fancy stuff, you're not be able to build another fire station. It's frustrating for me because in other municipalities, they're building fire stations for a hell of a lot less money that do the exact same thing. I'm not a big believer in a 4-bay. I think we should be a 3-bay and keep it that way. And I know you guys want to do it because of growth. Well, we don't have the money to buy all the bells and whistles. When I built my house, I built one I could afford, not one that I want. I built one I could afford, and not that I need any bells or whistles to go with it. You said something was a little confusing to me. You said 1710, 4-person when available. What does that mean?
1710 asks for 4 members to respond on a piece of fire apparatus.
But you said when available.
Okay. Can I continue, sir?
Yes, sir.
Good. The times in a firehouse where someone may have to go home, the water heater breaks, the car has a flat tire, the kid broke his arm and has to go to the hospital, firefighter might leave that station for a short period of time. So again, it's a simple process to allow someone that latitude for a very short window of time. 4 is the proper number. I also want to answer the other question. Intentionally, we did not describe the size of the firehouse. You will get to describe that, being the elected body that has policy, whether it's a 1-bay or 2-bay, whether it's made out of metal or whether it's made out of brick. We would support whatever you describe, sir.
And I have another question. And some of the commissioners don't know what a brownout is. Can you explain what a brownout is?
A brownout is when companies are put out of service for the day. A brownout might be that a ladder truck or a pumper is out for a 24-hour window because of staffing as compared to a blackout. A blackout is when that station closes and doesn't reopen.
Blackout's news. Please say that again.
The blackout from where I come from is that we're placing that company out of service. A brownout is for 1 day, or it could be for longer than a day, but
Right,
it's a
so
rotating process.
If we're at a brownout, let's say over by KU, who covers that ground while they're in a brownout?
Well, at this point, we haven't had any brownouts. We haven't had
You had
any
the potential for
blackouts.
brownouts,
And
correct?
again, when you go to the chart that I shared with you, we can see how, what the actual real life performance has been from Station 10. There were other fire companies around it. I didn't place that fire station there. It's both on the Johnson County line as well as the Missouri line. Not a very good place for a fire station to be.
Okay, different question, maybe different station,
Yes, sir.
Central Avenue. If that's in a brownout, who covers the area?
This station at Strawberry Hill is 9/10 of a mile. So it would be one of the very first to support that station. When you look at modern day fire protection, fire stations should be placed 3 miles apart. Each station can cover 1.5 miles in a concentric circle. And again, Corporation was the one that designed this. It's been perfected. We can get into some of those more detailed studies if you'd like. But at this point, I don't see the need to brown out or black out a station, sir.
If one happens, brownout or blackout, I want to know about it the split second it happens.
Oh, you want to know about that? Certainly, sir. We
Yes,
can make sure that happens. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And if we're talking about every 3 miles, then, and then we've already said this before, Piper needs another fire station, if not 2.
I'm sorry, I did not understand.
Piper needs another fire station, if not 2.
I would not disagree. I would ask, though, that we fix what we have. I think your wisdom was right on track we've got to stay within the budget that we have instead of what our wants are. And again, the good news is some of the area out there that needs a fire station, it hasn't been built up yet, but it assuredly will be. The apartments are coming right and left. We have a fire station that has only a quint in it that protects most of that area. And at some point, we've got to figure out a way to get a pumper in there as well.
And I'm going back to what I said before, when we build these new buildings, they need to be something that we need, not that we want. And then, and it's just like the vehicles we purchase top of the line Suburbans, Tahoes, or whatever they are. And I don't know why they can't buy a Traverse. Or something smaller. You know, a couple
Yes,
of
sir.
years ago, the guys had child seats in the back seat. We got pictures of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring something up that I've said a lot in a lot of different meetings, but I'm not sure I've said it to you. The police station, excuse me, the police department for many years had a traffic unit in a strip mall at 60th and Leavenworth Road. And that became deplorable. They had to move out of there and they went to quarters that frankly we're renting right now. And I've said many times that I would really like to see Station 4 specifically torn down. I realize it's number 3 on your list, so that's good enough for me. But when we do rebuild it, it would be really nice to do a combo police fire specifically for that traffic unit, to put that traffic unit back on Leavenworth Road. So I'm really just saying that out loud so you can hear it and to put it into the universe.
Yes, ma'am. And we
Thank you.
have no reservation about that. We would do that willingly and with a smile.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to be open and blunt.
Sure.
Very disappointed in the response that you didn't feel it was necessary for us to get the numbers. We went through revenue neutral. We cut your budget. We cut overtime, which I believe is not sustainable.
We
And
would agree.
we are going through, we don't know what this year is going to come. We don't. Every department is vying for the same pot. And to come with a long list of investments as a blank check with no number should not happen. Even if you don't have strong numbers, some idea of what it could be. But I do believe it was disappointing when you said you didn't think it was necessary for us to have that.
Yes, sir. I'll take responsibility. I'm sorry that I disappointed you.
So, I hope that moving forward, that we have information like that presented to us.
Yes, sir.
I know our finance department does an amazing job to provide information, but this is something I believe we need a master plan. But first we need to see how much it is. I'm not going to just support a plan that has a blank check.
Yes, sir.
It is my understanding Commissioner Lopez has his hands up. Commissioner Lopez?
Okay, I was trying to find the mute button. Sorry, I'm up in my office, just up on the 9th floor, Chief, just doing some homework on tonight's meeting, but tell me about Station 20. What's the holdup on that?
Sir, I don't know. I was told that it wasn't funded and that the work had stopped. I don't have the authority to spend millions of dollars.
Well, that's not what I was told, but that you didn't like the design or something, or no, you want a 4-bay and we need a 2.5 bay, and that's what we're ready to rock and roll, but you want a 4-bay and you're a nickel holding up a dollar on this. So what's
Sir, we'll start at 2-bay, 2.5 bay, 1 bay,
Yeah.
whatever you tell me. We'll start it tomorrow.
we wanted to start a month ago, I think, or if I'm right, but you insist that you want a 4-bay. I mean, is that going to give you ammo to shut down 3 fire stations that you want? That we can't afford to do that.
I don't know as that ever came into the discussion, but I understand what you're saying, sir, as best I can.
Well, it's not making sense to me then, because the ground is bought, we're ready to move forward, and we can't. So I'll tell you what, tomorrow, I'll get out there with my hoe right now, tomorrow, and I'll start digging and I'll start getting ready according to the plans.
Yes, sir.
That'd be great. I mean, and we can move forward because we need Station 20 and it's not being built. And what are you're wanting to spend extra money to build the temporary when we could have had it started 2 months ago?
Yes, sir.
I mean, so let's get rolling. I mean, shit. I mean, shit. You talk about saving our budget. I get it, but stop spending our money.
We'll stop
Oh my
spending the money.
God. I mean, look. I mean, you were just talking about the personal vehicles. That's 6 pickup trucks with 6 matching bed cabs or camper shells. And then something about you buying a dog for $3,500 when we have rescue dogs for free. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I'm not sure that there's 6, but yes, sir. You're
Okay,
right.
you know
You're
what?
right.
Let's
You're
say
right.
2. Let's say 3. I don't care. But when I was told 6, which we got boys driving up to Smithville Lake with them. Are you serious? On our dime? God. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to go to bat for you, but I mean, come on, you're killing me here.
Commissioner Lopez, are you finished?
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would like to remind the body that this is being recorded and the public is listening. So I just want you to be mindful that language does matter in some of these public settings. So, Mr. Commissioner Kane.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't me. When and you don't know this, but I worked in a joint program with General Motors in the safety department for 21 years. And you guys got up and gave a presentation not too long ago. And I would have rather you got up and told us as a group what you thought and what they thought. So we knew what both of them were thinking at the same time, instead of you giving a presentation and later on them giving a presentation, because we know we are not always going to get along. But you preached that this is what you want to do. And in fact, you spoke about the folks several times. If you're doing this together, that means the presentation should be together. And if there's differences, tell us what the differences are so we understand. You know, we would agree with you on some and agree with them on some. But it kind of throws me off just a skosh that everyone was singing Kumbaya, and then you told a whole bunch of people across the United States how great it is to work with the local and stuff like that, which is fine, but we're not doing it today. They're sitting there and they want to speak, and they should have had the opportunity to give their presentation along with yours. And that's my opinion.
Yes, sir.
You know, don't do me a favor, don't talk back. We need to get back where you were at before or better. You know, because they know the needs as much as you guys do. Now, they may not agree with it, but after we hear from them, from this time forward, I would prefer that both sides got up and spoke at the same time and tell us whatever you're supposed to tell us. Because that's the way I did it and it worked. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner Stites?
Stites District 7. So something that Commissioner Lopez brought up was we already have the land for the replacement of Station 20. Where's that at?
72nd and Kansas Avenue, sir.
And we own it. We bought it.
Yes,
We
sir.
own it.
Yes, sir.
72nd and Kansas Avenue. Okay. So, I don't know the name or the number, I mean, of the one that's the combination with West Patrol,
19, sir.
19. So I worked out of that police side for many, many years. And it seems to me, I mean, hey, I'm all for new stations and getting everybody nicest equipment and safest equipment. You need to be housed in good stuff, and that's what makes an employee happy, and they're deserving of those things, right? That's a good an employee deserves to have those amenities. But what I was wondering is, has there been much discussion with our police department because that number 19, as you say, that police department is one of the police locations that has been identified as needing replaced also. If you guys know now, you look and those police officers are parking up on top of the hill and walking down in the rain and the snow and trying to lug their gear and get down to it. So that location's not really doing what we need anymore. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd like for us to look at how we can maybe look at those combination locations. Like Commissioner Bynum said, the location for the police department traffic unit, I think that rent on that is like $60,000 or so is what I've been hearing. I know that Homefield reached out and said that they would allow the motorcycle unit to be housed inside their location for free and save the money. So I know a fire department's a little bit different than a police department. Because the police department, they go in, shift change, they're out, they come back periodically, right? But a wheel unit, motorcycle unit, they come in, they get their stuff and they're out doing their stuff that they do through the day. So they could kind of, but I like the idea of it being a combination. How could we build locations that serve multiple purposes?
I think, again, we were very open to that. We'll start meeting with the chief of police, explore what his interests might be. I'm 100% behind it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's potentially a cost saver. But of course, the front end is probably going to cost us more money, but in the long run, it may save quite a bit of money.
Now, when you say it may cost us more money, why would that be? And I don't know what.
I'm assuming we're going to be building 2 bay fire stations.
Okay.
And I would say plan on those being filled up. And again, I hope I'm leading towards mentioning that we need more ambulances in this community. We simply do.
Okay, so you're saying that if we built the 2, you're saying we'll need to expand them down the road.
I think we could survive with a 2 bay fire station. I know that's what labor is really seriously interested in. I
Okay.
wouldn't stand before that. I was under the impression that the 4 bay was approved. I was under the impression that the finances was there. Let me just say, the site location, the initial plans, working with the architect, the construction guy, I was not involved in any of that. That
On
was
70
BR
on
before
on
Rubin.
70, is it still the same number? 20?
Yes, sir. Station
so-
20 at
so
72nd and Kansas, sir.
Just because of my police department days, and I spent a lot of time right there in that area. Why was that location chosen?
No clue, not even a slight clue, sir. That happened long before Dennis Rubin.
Who
Was not me. I'll take
sound like
responsibility
that
for everything, but things I
Shaggy
wasn't even
song,
here
wasn't
for.
me?
I'm sorry, sir?
That's that song that wasn't me. I got you. I was making a
Yes, sir.
joke. But so is that the preferred location today? Just because we own lots of pieces of ground. Does that make sense that is the location?
I think it's reasonable. It's only a few blocks away. It's got great road frontage.
Mhm.
I think you'll see that community continue to develop, sir. And I know that we've put, I'm told, about $1 million worth of value into that land. I think they've worked on the plans. I think perhaps the laterals are getting close. I think some of the site work has been done. So I feel like we're committed to that. But to build a 2 bay fire station is attainable, easy to do. Having a police precinct next to it. I know there's some interest in what's called a type 2, a steel structure building that I think would serve us well also. And again, cutting the cost down remarkably.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I would just like for us and I guess direction to the county administrator that when we're looking at these locations and that we are really working together with the police department so that we can identify locations and maybe this spot
idea.
isn't the spot for this. But maybe the chief says, you know what, this is the spot, both chiefs, or whoever decides this, that this is where we could put a new West Patrol or wherever they're deeming that they need one, right? But I
Yes,
just
sir.
think it makes sense for us to, I personally, at one point I said, I thought we should buy the Kmart location and we put a police department, the the fire department and the annex that's out at 82nd Street, where we have a whole lot of parking. We have a whole location there and plenty of parking, and we could put everybody right there at 78th and State Avenue. And I don't know if that was ever, you know, really taken
That
seriously
did
or
not
not.
come up in my watch, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't saying I've directed it to you. I was just saying that it makes sense when we have those locations out there. Probably ought to get it before the community college buys it up. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, sorry, my mic's a little weird. Okay, Chief Rubin, thank you so much for the presentation. We've all been talking about when this is going to come and when we're going to see the master plan. I know we've had prior conversations and stuff, and so it is good to at the very least be here. So let me just going to ask kind of a series of questions. Number one, my understanding is we're going to get 2 proposals or 2 master plans. So is the current master plan from administration complete?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Okay. And I will agree on the need for renovation for Fire Station 2. It is very, very busy. I live near State and it is constant. And so I'm pleased to see that particular fire station is mentioned on our radar. I want to talk about money because there's how we allocate and there's stewardship, and I'll get to that. But I also want to talk about revenue because there's no real way to slice it. We are in a bind for dollars. Your department it does receive a percentage of the 3/8 sales tax. Do you know off the top of your hand, or does anybody from staff know how much is that generating right now for fire, for the 3/8 sales tax? Does anybody know?
I don't, but I saw Mr. Lindsay. I don't know if he's in.
Oh, he's right there to your right. Yep. Yeah, you come on up.
The dedicated sales tax produces about $14 million for police, fire, and like infrastructure.
Okay, so how is that split? Is it
So
like a
it's
third?
supposed to be a third, and a third.
Okay, so we're talking maybe 4 million and some change, give or take, that goes to KCKFD. Is that
Somewhere
accurate?
around there.
Around.
In some years, we don't get it all, a third. I mean, sometimes it's off of balance. So I don't know this, we try to get it as close as we can. So I don't know the exact number for this year.
Okay, gotcha. Well, it would be good for us
But
to
I
get
mean, it
those
is somewhere in
numbers.
between 4 to 5 million.
45 billion. Okay, yeah, it would be good for us to get those numbers because again, I think we need to have the money conversation. We have to have the money conversation. Okay, Chief Rubin, I know you just got some rest on your legs, and yeah, we might need some folks from Budget and Finance to help. I want to talk about the EMS billing situation, which I thought was very telling and quite worrisome. So let me just make sure I understand this. If somebody is calling for a service, we come, let's say it was a joke or a prank or whatever, and obviously that's a lot of money that we're spending just to get all of our resources and our people there. We don't have an adequate way of recouping those particular dollars. Do I have that correct?
Let me see if I can be really clear.
Yes,
If
please.
a person has insurance, the primary insurance carrier almost always pays the bill.
Okay.
If the person is uninsured, indigent, unhoused, there's a small amount of money. I think it's $154 that comes back through Medicaid. The other issue that I know I've asked on several occasions, I don't believe we have the authority yet to do it, is we would like to go with a collection agency.
Yes. Okay. So what's the current process right now? You said it's just
We
the
have
Medicaid.
yes, sir. We have a billing company that sends out a bill that's based on the completion of an ambulance call.
Mhm.
When the members finish their run, They have a tablet. They've provided the information. It may take a little bit longer, but very early into that process, they send it on, which gets reviewed and then moves into the billing company. The billing company then starts the process of asking that person, their primary insurance carrier, for the money that it took for the medical call. The range goes up to about $1,100. Quite frankly, when we have a significant, what's called an advanced life support 2 call for a person that's indigent, for that $1,100-$1,200 call, we're going to
Sure.
get about $154 back.
Gotcha.
And we will get nothing else. For someone who doesn't want to pay the bill, perhaps they're a person on the interstate that's had an automobile accident that wants to walk away from Kansas City, Kansas. At this point, there's no teeth to the billing process.
Okay. And so in kind of your expertise in your experience, you're saying a possible solution to that is exploring some sort of billing or collection, because basically it's not that it's unpaid, it's just being paid another way, right? Which is through kind of the taxpayer or other, right, parts of the budget. And so the question is, how do we make sure that the revenue, right, is coming from the source and not somewhere else? And so your recommendation would be we explore a billing collection partnership.
I would like to be empowered to put together a request for proposal and get a very aggressive company that will do collections. And that company does things like garnish your wages. I could go on, but you get
Sure.
the idea.
Yeah.
And most of them will not take on a client unless they agree to that. The way that the the collection company gets paid, billing as well, is that when we get paid, they get paid. Typical collection fee is somewhere about 8%. I don't have the exact numbers at this time. It does fluctuate. And when it goes to collections, it jumps up to about 25%. But 75% of what you missed is much better than 0%.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And if I would give kind of further direction to staff, I do think that, I mean, we have to put everything on the table. We have to. And I don't necessarily want to particularly be a burden to folks that are not able to pay. I'm really talking about those that are able to pay and they're just not necessarily following up. Because again, even if it's 50%, 50% is still better than zero. 75% would be great. And so I do think that as we are contemplating, right, this master plan, that new sources of revenue, such as that one, should be included. And so, Administrator, I would like to see that some studies on that and some recommendations come from that as well. I agree with a lot of the sentiments of my colleagues. You know, you all, and I've said this before, are the largest department. And so it is, you know, with much is given, there's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of eyes. And I say that because although some of this was before your arrival at the unified government, there were and continues to be a lot of murmurs on the optics of what is being paid for and what is a priority. And as you can imagine, that makes our jobs pretty difficult, where we're telling folks we don't have a lot of money, and then they're looking at the fire department and then they're seeing what is perceived to be luxurious or what is perceived to be unnecessary. Now, I believe in taking care of our folks, but I also do believe that we have to do it in a way that is measured and in a way that is meeting the moment and in a way that is aware that the public is looking, the public is watching. And so I don't say that as any reflection on your leadership, but just as stating what we are currently dealing with. And so I thank you so much for that. Do we have Local 64 scheduled yet to present to us, or what's that deal? Does anybody know? Administrators, do we have Local 64 scheduled for them to present their side?
No, we made the trade just earlier this week, and we're looking at the calendar now.
Okay, I do think just out of fairness, I would hope that it would be fairly soon, because we get a lot of information and things thrown at us, and this is very, very fresh. I would hate to not necessarily remember or for us to not really compare what both of you all have. I will echo and agree that in the future, with what Commissioner Kane has said, it would be best if you had a truncated presentation, they had a truncated presentation. We're talking maybe 15, 20 slides maximum, and we just had side-by-side conversations, particularly on the things that you all disagree on, because I know you agree on many of the things that was presented tonight, but it would be very, very helpful for that information to be fresh in our minds. Thank you so much again for your work. Thank you so much to our staff here, to our firefighters. We really, really appreciate you all. And I do think that we'll be able to find a way to have a better master plan. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you for the feedback, sir.
Chief, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And if I may, I believe, Commissioner, the tune of the supplement, if I remember the last budget, it was around $1 million for EMS. And staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but those numbers have come together later. But I believe it was something to the tune of around $1 million that we were supplementing EMS out of our budget. The Chief, thank you for the presentation there. I don't believe I see any more questions. I will state that I know there's been many questions, much concern. However, I think once we hear from Local 64, and the opportunities for collective solution finding will be more apparent for us and we get the budget numbers. So again, thank you for your presentation. If there's no other questions, I believe that this was for information only. There's no action this evening. Seeing no other questions. Yeah, thank you. There's a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second for adjournment. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Kane. Aye. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will break again and reconvene here 7:00 p.m. for our full commission meeting. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, everyone who attended. Well, good evening. I am Tom Burrows, Commissioner at Large, District 2. Tonight, however, I'll be acting as Mayor Pro Tem due to the unavailability of Mayor Garner. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioners, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. Please be sure you speak directly into a microphone so that the public can hear your comments and an accurate record of the meeting is made. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. If public comments are allowed on the agenda item, comments should be limited to the topic per that item. Per the Commission Rules of Procedure, comments should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call this meeting to order and would ask the clerk please call roll.
Roll call. Kane.
Here.
Lopez.
Here.
Stites.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Townsend, we have an absence memo. Burns.
Here.
Ramirez, we have an absence memo. Hill, we have an absence memo. Garner, we have an absence memo. Burrows.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. The invocation is being given this evening by Chaplain Stella Reese of the Oak Grove Christian Church. I would ask everyone to stand and remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we pray? Gracious Creator, as we gather here this evening, we humbly come to you seeking your guidance and your wisdom. Grant everyone clarity of their thoughts and understandings as they begin this meeting. Help them to make decisions that align with your will and bring about positive outcomes. Proverbs 3 shares, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him and he will make your path straight. We trust in your divine wisdom, Lord, and we submit ourselves to your guidance. Lead this meeting in the right direction and bless their discussions with words of kindness and respect for one another. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chaplain Reese, thank you for providing this invocation this evening. Thank you. Madam Clerk, any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, we do have an agenda update that has been issued. On that agenda update, under the mayor's agenda, we removed item 5.1 and added item 5.4. And then under planning and zoning non-consent agenda, item 8.2, under special use permit applications, we corrected the vote of the planning commission and also provided an updated staff report. Those are the only changes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So that takes us to, before we proceed any further with tonight's public hearing, I will request Angela Lawson, Acting Chief Counsel, to say a few words regarding the number of members of the commissioners present and that number, how those numbers affect on the select cases in the planning and zoning portion of the meeting this evening.
Yes, as indicated from the roll call tonight, the Board of Commissioners is missing 4 members, leaving us with 7 members in attendance. The non-consent portion of the agenda is now affected. For example, under the Unified Government Code of Ordinances. Is this better? Yeah. Sorry. Under the Unified Government Code of Ordinances, a valid protest petition requires an affirmative vote of 9 commissioners in order to approve the requested zoning application. For other actions, require 8 votes to, for example, to override the planning commission. With only 7 members in attendance, such a vote is impossible due to the fact that the full spectrum of possible options is not available for the Board of Commissioners to consider. Legal advises that the Board of Commissioners vote to continue the 3 items that are not on the consented agenda this evening. It is our expectation that that the meeting on May 1st of this year will have enough members for all the possible options to be available for consideration. Each item can be continued until the next Planning and Zoning Board of Commissioners meeting upon an affirmative vote of 6 or more commissioners, including the mayor pro tem if necessary to reach an affirmative vote. So I think the mayor pro tem would entertain motions for 8.1 on the change of zone, 8.1 on special use permits, and 8.2 on special use permits.
Thank you. Committee, the 3 items that have been struck at this time, I do have a motion from, I would entertain a motion to continue item COZ 2024-016, that's the Steve Sobek, to the next planning and zoning meeting. I would entertain a motion to do so.
Motion. Bynum, second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. There has been a item number 8.2, Henry Calhoun. At this time, I would entertain a motion to continue item SP 2025-003, Henry Calhoun, to the next planning and zoning meeting.
Motion.
Bynum, second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yes, this takes us to the final non-consent this evening, SP 2024-057, Brad Willits with Dynasty. Do I have a motion for continuance till next month?
Motion. David second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. Ladies and gentlemen, those that were expecting to speak this evening, those items are no longer on the agenda this evening. We don't have enough commissioners to take action. In all fairness to you and the item, it's best to put it off till next month. Okay, that takes us to the mayor's agenda. Item 5.1 has been pulled, so that takes us to item 5.2, which is a proclamation recognizing 7 days of kindness. Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please read?
Proclamation. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim March 31st through April 8th, 2025 as 7 days of kindness in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Mayor Pro Tem, we have two more proclamations.
Please continue.
Proclamation. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2025 as Youth Art Month in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Proclamation. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim March 27th, 2025 as National Tuskegee Airmen Day in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing no more items under the mayor's agenda, that moves us to the planning and zoning consent agenda. Thank you. We will proceed on that. I'll ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent calendar. Clerk, please.
Good evening. We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor CEO Tyrone Garner, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Bill Burns, District 2, Commissioner Christian Ramirez, District 3, Commissioner Evelyn Hill, District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Phil Lopez, District 6, Commissioner Chuck Stites, District 7, and Commissioner Andrew Davis, District 8. As each petition is called, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before the commission has three options. One, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendations, but it would take 8 votes to override. 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or others, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the Mayor Pro Tem will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to come to the microphone and provide the agenda item to be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If you're joining us virtually, this is your time to raise your hand, and once acknowledged, provide the agenda item to be set aside. If you contacted the UG Clerk's office, that item will be set aside by the UG Clerk on your behalf. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted on separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would, however, remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone, please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. If joining us virtually or by phone, we ask that you mute your phone when not speaking to avoid background noise so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state their views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record if attending in person. This will be your time to raise your hand if you're joining us virtually. When your name is called, please state your name and city for the record. The Mayor Pro Tem and Commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. At this time, does any member of the Commission wish to disclose any contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda?
Does any member of the commission, county administrator, the public wish to set aside any item on planning and zoning consent agenda? Anything to declare? Seeing none.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Planning and zoning, change of zone applications, item 7.1, COZ 2024-042, Autumn King. Change of zone from AG Agricultural District to CP2 Planned General Business District to construct an indoor go-kart facility at 9700 State Avenue, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Item 7.2, COZ 2025-003, Ichi and Lee. Change of zone from R1B Single Family District to R2B Two Family District for a legal non-conforming duplex at 2506 West 43rd Avenue, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Special use permit, item 7.1, SP 2024-111, Tatum Phillip. Special use permit for continuation of a short-term rental at 809 Central Avenue, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for 6 months. Item 7.2, SP 2025-005, Donna Barnett with DSB Management. Special use permit for continuation of a short-term rental at 2311 North 104th Terrace, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for 2 years. Item 7.3, SP 2025, Ichi and Lee. Special use permit to operate a short-term rental at 2506 West 43rd Avenue, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for 1 year. Item 7.4, SP 2025-016, Sherry Gayed with University of Kansas Health System. Special use permit to operate an 18-unit hotel at 4325 Rainbow Boulevard, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for indefinite years. Vacation applications, item 7.1, VAC 2025-001, Crystal Voth. Vacation of an unused utility easement in the front yard at 4555 North 97th Street, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Master plan application 7.1, MPL 2024-015, Kaylin Calwart. Master plan amendment from single family to general urban to bring a non-conforming duplex into conformance at 4000 Adams Street, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Miscellaneous. Item 7.1, ordinance rezoning property at 7301 State Avenue from CP2 Planned General, Business District to CP3 Planned Commercial District, recommended for approval. Item 7.2, ordinance authorizing a special use permit for a short-term rental at 111 South 16th Street, recommended for approval. Item 7.3, ordinance authorizing a special use permit for the continuation of a youth nature center with a campground at 2640 Wood End Lane, recommended for approval. Item 7.4, ordinance authorizing a special use permit for a short-term rental at 6429 Leavenworth Road, recommended for approval. Item 7.5, ordinance authorizing a special use permit for an earth and fill at 732 North 57th Street, recommended for approval. Item 7.6, ordinance authorizing special use permit for continuation of the removal of earth and fill at 10702 Donahue Road, recommended for approval. This represents all of the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does any member of the commission, county administrator, public wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just want to check with legal. We are not running into a similar situation when it comes to the consent agenda. I just want to make sure of that.
That's a very good question. As long as they remain on the consent agenda, there's no issue. If an item is removed, which the commission has the right to do, then you would need to set that item over because you'd have the same issue.
Okay, because I know we're in our quasi judicial role, so I just did not want to pass up that opportunity and that complication. I'll move to approve if you're accepting the motion.
Kane, second.
We have a motion and a second to approve all agendas on the planning and zoning consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. That takes us to our regular consent agenda. Does any member of the Commissioner County Administrator wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. I will entertain a motion. We have a motion and a second to approve all items on the regular consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, committee. With no further business come before the governing body, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Davis moves to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Thank you. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Committee, thank you for your work. Council, thank you for your heads up. And Monica and staff, thank you very much for attending this evening and guiding them.